coming out, Kenny Pickett, kind of getting the Steelers here, is going to be a highly NFL-ready quarterback, right? Played, four or five seasons in the same stadium, same practice facility with Pitt, same city, right? A lot less of an adjustment for him. A lot of experience in the starts, experience with the city. He kind of gets it, very mature, right? He's going to be able to compete fairly quickly in this league. And we know that having a guy on a rookie deal is super helpful to be able to build that roster. Like San Francisco has been trying to, build that roster around not quarterback centric, right? Not paying the quarterback a ton. Now Brock Purdy, 7th-round quarterback contract, paying him essentially nothing. Trey Lance, even though he was first round, still not making a ton, as a quarterback room in general, right? So, but now the question is, how competitive can Pittsburgh and Kenny Pickett be in the loaded AFC, right? We know if he's in the NFC, there's an argument he's the fourth best quarterback, right? You got Hurts, Cousins, Dak. Like, where would you go from there? I mean, if Stafford's healthy, maybe that would put Kenny at 5. But like Kenny would be a top 5 quarterback in the NFC. But in the AFC, it's a lot different, right? So I'm trying to, what's the precedent for where the Steelers are at right now? Like, going back in history, recent history, of course. I'm not coming back to, the 80s. The game's changed so much. What's the recent precedent for a team like Pittsburgh, and what's their ceiling look like? So think back to Jared Goff. That year, 2018-2019, when the Rams, got the Super Bowl. Of course, they lose to the Patriots, but a very good season nonetheless. And so think back to that 2018-2019. Yes, Mahomes was the MVP in the AFC, right? Brady was obviously a stud. But actually reversed to right now, the NFC was a lot stronger in terms of depth with quarterbacks, right? Russ was still playing at an MVP level. Aaron was ranked second in the league in terms of most of the metrics that you look at, like PFF, for example, has him at second or third, I think. Matt Ryan was highly capable. Carson Wentz was a year removed from getting MVP votes. Dak was super viable, right? Drew Brees still had the Sean Payton, Drew Brees thing was still going. Drew was playing really well. Yet Jared Goff, who's somewhere between the 6th, 7th, maybe 8th best quarterback in the NFC at the time, on a rookie deal on a stacked roster, came out of the NFC. No, I'm not saying the Steelers are on that same level. I don't think they have the high-end talent, right? Gurley was an MVP-level running back, which almost never happens. Yeah, Cooper Kupp wasn't quite as good as he was, last year or 2 years ago with Stafford, but he was still really, really good. Very good offensive line. But I think there are a lot of similarities, right? Rookie deal quarterback. Really, really nice defense. Like TJ Watt, Aaron Donald, right? Not a ton of secondary help. They didn't have Jalen Ramsey at the time, right? But a lot of really high-end talent, especially in the front seven, much like Pittsburgh does. Secondary is a weakness. Good skill guys, pretty young, right? Like I said, Cooper Kupp was young, Todd Gurley, Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks. Outside of Andrew Whitworth on the offensive line was pretty young. And then Goff was the 6th or 7th best quarterback in the NFC. Rodgers, Russ, Matt Ryan, Dak, Cousins, and then probably Wentz. So I'd put him at about 7. You could argue 6th. So now look at where Kenny Pickett lands in the AFC. And let's just look at his 6 games that he started and finished, right? The last 6 games. Because he was a rookie, he was kind of getting it under his belt. Matt Canada wasn't very good. It was back and forth with Trubisky early in the season, right? Like, his last 6 games, how did he finish the year, right? So he was hurt against the Ravens, inactive against the Panthers, still hurt. So obviously take those out. He's just 5 touchdowns to 1 pick, 207 yards a game, 60% completion, 86 pass rating, went about 5-1. Or went exactly 5-1, I guess. Not great completion percentage. You'd like to have that up. Good touchdowns to pick. First of all, also, fourth quarter, fantastic. 2 game-winning drives. I'm not saying that he's a world beater, but where would that rank in the AFC? I think you would, there's the obvious ones. Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, Allen, Rodgers, and I would say Trevor Lawrence. Those are like the no doubt about it. They're significantly better than Kenny Pickett. But then you look, who's next? Tua? Nope, can't stay healthy. Lamar? He's played 1 game in December and January the past 2 years combined. 1 game, 2 months. That's 16 games he's played. 1. I think it ends up shaking out to like 15. One of them was a bye, but you get the point. Kenny played his best in December and January. Interesting how that works, right? Deshaun Watson, we'll see. Can he even make it back from missing a year and a half? My point is that you can argue that Kenny Pickett's, anywhere between the 6th, 7th, 8th best. It doesn't really matter. Anywhere between 6 and 8, probably in the NFC, or AFC, I'm sorry. My point being, he's clearly a tier 2 guy in the AFC, just like Goff was that year. I think there are some similarities. Both throw a pretty nice deep ball. Neither are super dynamic with their legs, but can still move, throw on the run really well. Both very NFL-ready type guys with a really nice roster. I think it's within reason for the Steelers to kind of fly a little bit under the radar. They're not going to have a spectacular 13-4 year. They're not going to be world beaters. Can they be 10-7, kind of fly under the radar, sneak in as the 7th seed, and win a playoff game? I think that's certainly on the table. I think the Rams had much higher expectations. I think they were better. I think the NFC team-wise was weaker. Quarterbacks a little bit better, but team-wise was weaker. So the Rams were able to do a little bit more. But I do think the Steelers can fly under the radar a little bit, win a playoff game, maybe two, make some noise. I think that's absolutely on the table. And I think the precedent is the Rams. And I think there's a lot of similarities there. And I think it's something that is very, very possible for the Steelers. And I don't want to say I'm being overly optimistic, right? Some people are like, oh, the Steelers are going to the Super Bowl. But I think that's realistic with a touch of optimism, right? Like, I think anybody that's saying, oh, the Steelers can win the Super Bowl, you're kind of setting yourself up for, disappointment, right? Second-year guy, offensive line still kind of in the works. We're not thrilled about the offensive coordinator. So I think if they can win a playoff game, win a playoff game, that is a huge success for this young second-year quarterback and a young core. George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, those are still young guys. If they can get there and win a game, make some noise, that is a huge win for the Steelers. And I think it's absolutely on the table. I think I would argue it's my prediction for them to get in as a 7 and make a ton of noise in the playoffs.
Yeah, I like that. The Steelers fans definitely have a lot to look forward to this season. I feel already better at this point going into this year than last year. Right? I think it says something to know who your starter is preseason. Where there's no quarterback battle. Who's starting? Is it going to be Trubisky? Is it going to be somehow Mason Rudolph? Is Kenny Pickett going to get the start? Right? So I feel like it's better to at least have that clear cut. You know the direction you're going. Now, I don't want to speak too heavy into the preseason games because at the end of the day, it is preseason. But for the most part, your number ones are playing their number ones for the first drive to 2 drives.
And they've looked good.
Out of Kenny Pickett's 3 NFL drives that he's had or 3 preseason drives this year, he scored 3 touchdowns.
Right. Like he's looked really. I think he's got like 4 incompletions. Like, he's looked really good.
I don't think Matt Canada is the guy, and this is possibly a conversation for later down the road. But I think if you can find the one quarterback that fits with that system, that fits Matt Canada's system, I think they can actually be good. And we've seen him execute those plays pretty well so far. And I think Kenny Pickett might be one of the only guys that can work in a Matt Canada play calling system. It's going to be something to watch, but it's so far. And the weapons are good. Kenny looks good. He's making really tough throws, too.
Yeah,
it's not like he's making cakewalk throws.
I would agree. It's a lot like the Jets where I think it all hinges on the offensive line. If they can run the football a little bit, because I think they'll be able to keep Kenny upright. Like, it's a lot of quick throws. They'll be able to keep him upright. He can move good enough. I don't think the pass blocking is an issue. If you can run the football, if they can move bodies to run the football, I think they'll be pretty successful.
I think so, too. All right, guys, it's that time. Hits and misses.